Hey, what's going on, guys? Christian Duke from StrengthAddicts.com. I don't know if you have like a magazine that you read over and over again. I know I do. My bodybuilding collection magazines, I have about 5 or 6 magazines that I just set to the side that I just particularly love. I have them all the way back to 1998. This one here is not quite so old. It's from February 2012, and it's the MD cover with Lou Ferrigno up there. I don't know if you can take a look there. It's not that old. It was actually out in February. And it was from the mid-90s when Luke came back and did that really cool Masters Mr. Olympia where he placed second to Robbie Robinson. Both of them looked phenomenal. And I wish they'd bring the Masters Olympia back. But anyways, I'm going to read you an article from Blood and Guts, which is Dorian Yates' section on MD. I'm just going to read you a couple sentences and I'm just going to talk to you about it a little bit because I think it's noteworthy. So this is Dorian here. I did sacrifice mass for condition every time. The most famous shots of me were the black and white ones at my gym 6 weeks prior to the 1993 Mr. Olympia. In them, I was 275 pounds, and some commented that I was ready at that point. At the show, I was about 257, or 15 to 17 pounds down in weight, which also includes water loss. Was I much fuller and rounder at 275? Certainly. But even though I had good separation there, to me, that look was still a little too watery and blurry for what I considered true contest condition. And I just think that really sends it home. Dorian could have gotten on stage at 275, but he didn't because he wanted to be not just the biggest guy, but he wanted to be the most conditioned guy. He wanted to be ripped. He wanted to be balanced. And so it's just weird because he talks about in the article how that's not the look today. He talks in the article about his contemporaries and his rivals. I really suggest you get this issue or try to go online and find a way to read the whole article. I don't want to read it for you. I think you should go to MD for it. But I just think it's really cool that Dorian was not just one of these mass monsters. He wanted to be ripped. He wanted to be conditioned. And like he even talks about it in the article how he knew he was bigger than Ray, he knew he was bigger than Lavroni, he knew he was bigger than Wheeler, but he didn't want them to win on condition. He didn't want them to be, okay, he didn't want to be like, okay, well, Dorian won because he's bigger. These other guys are great because they're the most cut. No, Dorian wanted to be the biggest, but he also wanted to be the most cut. He was already the biggest naturally, physiologically, anatomically, he was already the biggest. But then he also wanted to be the most cut. And I think that's a true, the true definition of a champion. It's not just to be good enough to win, but be the best at everything. And I don't know that bodybuilders today strive for that. And I don't know how it is that, in the 80s, the bodybuilders, even if you watch the reconstruction of Arnold when he comes back and he wins that Olympia, he shouldn't have won in 1980. The judges are saying, sport of bodybuilding, if we're to believe the sport of bodybuilding hasn't changed since Arnold was winning, and they were talking about a 5-year gap there, then they were saying then that's totally wrong, basically. I don't know what they said, I can't quote them, but basically the thing is that as time goes on, sports, technology, whatever, they progress, they get better. In the 80s, bodybuilding was a lot better than in the 70s, and by better I don't mean better in the sense that they were truer to the sport, they were just bigger, they were more cut, they were able to push the card further, and then in the 90s they were even harder, and they were even more conditioned and even more ripped and even bigger. But then I think the last 10 years, I think that was counterintuitive because the guys in the 90s are harder than the guys last decade in this decade, and they're more conditioned than the guys last decade in this decade. So it's kind of strange where it seems like the 90s are the defining point for bodybuilding. And it would be good to go back to the 90s for look, for contest prep, for training methods. It almost seems like the 90s were the best time in bodybuilding. The golden era was the 70s. That's where you had Arnold and Franco and Dave Draper and Columbo and all of them, and that was cool for that. But as far as training, supplementation, as far as pushing the card, it seems like the 90s were the best decade. And unfortunately, I didn't get to go to bodybuilding shows in the 90s, and I kind of wish I would have. It would have been great to see, Dorian and Sean and Kevin and Paul Dillette and Nasser just battling it up on stage, and I think that is a lot more fun to watch than, Jay Cutler looking like a refrigerator and everybody else that's up there. That's just me.